Hi everybody, in this video we are going to work on unit 10.1.2, solving multi-step equations. So grab out your notes because we are going to get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the steps on how to solve multi-step equations. And these are just general steps, right? So we're not going to do all these steps every single time. This is going to be based on the situation that we were given with to start with. So if necessary, our first step is going to be simplify the expressions on each side of the equation, including combining like terms. So if we need to combine like terms on each side of the equation, and when I say each side of the equation, we're talking about we have a mathematical phrase, we have an equal sign, and we have another mathematical phrase. So we're going to simplify the things over here. We're going to simplify the things over here first, including combining like terms if we have them. The next step we're going to do is we're going to get all of the variable terms on one side and all numbers, which are constant terms, right? And all of the numbers or the constants on the other side. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must also do to the other side of the equation. So this is like the picture of the balance that we've seen in all algebra textbooks everywhere in the entire universe. So if you do something to one side of the equal sign for that equation, you have to do it to the other side of the equal sign to keep that equation balanced. That's what it's talking about. All right, number 3. Then we are going to isolate the variable term using the inverse or the opposite. That's what that means, inverse or opposite operation to undo the equation. To isolate, oh, let me fix my little T there. To isolate the variable means to solve for the variable or to get it all by itself with a coefficient of 1 on one side of the equation. So again, that's talking about like if you have negative 2x equals 10, and I say, okay, let's undo this equation, I would say, what operation's happening between the negative 2 and the x? And you would say multiplication. And then I would say, what's the opposite or inverse operation of multiplication? And you would say division. And so then we would divide. So sometimes students will go like this. And then you've got negative x equals 5. And they'll say, okay, there's my answer. That's not true because look at the coefficient on x right now. It's negative 1. It needs to be positive 1. So what we should have done up here is either divide both sides by negative 2 at that point, or if we made that mistake and we forgot to do that earlier, we can still do it here. We can still fix this. No problem. And we're going to have x equals negative 5. And so we'll circle or box our answer at that point. Finally, the last step is we are going to check your solution by substituting the value of the variable back into the original equation. That's really important. So I've had some students before start solving an equation and they get it, I don't know, most of the way solved, and then they take their answer that maybe was incorrect and they plug it back into their equation after they had made the mistake already. And of course, their incorrect answer at that point will still look correct because it was past their mistake. So that's why you have to put it back into the original equation so it catches your mistake if you even made a mistake. We used to not make you guys do this step, and then we put it on a test and we found out that some of you haven't done this in a long time and have no idea how to check your answers. So we practice doing that now for our problem. So I'm going to have you guys do this too, because it's going to be required of you on quizzes and exams. So I'm going to do it for some of the examples, but then you are going to need to, you're going to need to make sure you feel comfortable with that skill of checking your solutions. Okay, so our first problem that we're going to do, and our directions here are just solve for the variable. So we've got 12.5 minus 2x equals negative 7.5. And then we're looking to solve for that variable x. So again, go back up to your steps. It says, if necessary, simplify the expressions on each side of the equation. Is there anything for us to simplify on the left-hand side? No. Right-hand side? No. Okay, so second step, get all the variable terms on one side, all of the constants on the other. It doesn't matter which way you bring them. So like you could bring the negative 7.5 over to the left or vice versa. I'm gonna move the 12.5 over like that. And so then that gets rid of that. And then I'm gonna have negative 2x equals, that should be negative 20. Yes, negative 20, 12 and 7 is 19, and then another half and half, so that's negative 20. And now we are dividing both sides by a negative 2, and then we are going to get x equals negative over a negative is going to give us a positive, and we're going to get a positive 10. And that's our answer. So then for our check that I want you to do, and create some space over here for my check. So for my check, I want you to do like a little check mark, or you can write the word check. We're just going to plug it in. So we're going to do an algebraic check where we say 12.5 minus 2 times 10. I know you don't want to write this in your notes, but do it. Put it in there so you don't miss your completion points in your notes. It's also just good to have it in there. All right, 12.5 minus 20. And again, we're running an algebraic test. Does the left-hand side equal the right-hand side? And then does that equal negative 7.5? Well, if you take 12.5 and you subtract 20, so if you take 13 and you subtract 20, we're going to get negative 7, right? So if it's 12.5 minus 20, it's going to give us, hang on a second, our negative 7.5. Having a hard time talking and writing at the same time today and doing simple math in my head. All right, here we go. So then what that shows us is that we did our answer or our problem correct, and we know that our answer is also correct. So we're good. Let's move on. So number 2, we've got 2x over 16 equals negative 7 over 6. You should pause the video and try this one out on your own. See if you can get it. There are so many ways you can do this problem. So you can start by multiplying both sides by 16 and get the 16 out of the denominator, and then you can divide by 2. I like to just show you guys how to cross multiply here. That also works. You can do it a different way, so you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. Just make sure your process is still mathematically sound and that you're getting the right answer. So on this one, you should be getting, let me do this one. So I'm going to do the first circle from 2x times 6. So we're going to get 12x equals, and then our 16 times our negative 7. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to put it in my calculator. Should be negative 112. And then you're dividing both sides by 12. So I'm going to divide that by 12. And then you should be getting, in my calculator, it says x equals negative 9.3 repeating. Well, I'm going to want you to keep that as a fraction. So that's going to be the same as x equals negative 9 1/3. Or you can leave it as an improper fraction, and then when you're changing that into an improper fraction, it'd be negative 28 over 3. So those are going to be your answers there. So make sure you're leaving it as a fraction, whether it's mixed or improper. Okay, so then what I want you to do, this check is a little bit messier, but you still need to do it. So what we're going to do up here is that we're going to have 2 times our negative, I'm going to do negative 28 over 3. So I'm plugging that in, all over 16 equals negative 7/6. So you can do it that way. In your calculator, I'm fine with you just doing some of this in your calculator. So you can do like these calculators that I have, which you're still more than welcome to come by and check out if you'd like. I'm going to take the negative 28 over 3. I'm going to hit the fraction button. So we're going to do 28 over 3, and then I'm going to multiply it by 2, and then that gives me negative 18 2/3 in my calculator. I'm going to put that over 16. And again, we're running an algebraic test, and you should be checking this in your calculator. Like, you should know how to do this in your own calculator. Don't just rely on me to do it, because I could be punching something in wrong here and then showing something wrong. All right, so 18 2/3 or negative 18 2/3, and I'm dividing that by 16. And I get in my calculator negative 1 1/6. And does that equal negative 7/6? Well, yeah, sure. It's just a mixed number instead of an improper fraction. So we can change that to negative 7/6, which equals negative 7/6, which is my check mark. If you don't know how to do that in your calculator, you need to come ask me for help, because you're going to need to make sure you know how to do this portion as well as this portion. All right, we have a bunch of examples today. So I'm hoping that you all have more space on this page to fill in some more examples. I do not. It's too hard to write too small on the app on the iPad with a stylus. All right, example number 3. Example number 3, we've got 2 times x minus 5 plus 3x equals x plus 6. So again, you should pause the video and see if you can get to the answer. So what I would recommend you do first is you distribute. Then you're going to have 2x minus 10 plus 3x equals x plus 6. We're going to combine our x's on the left-hand side. And again, you can go back up to your steps at the beginning of today's lesson and read where that step is. So here we've got 5x minus 10 equals x plus 6. I'm going to bring this x over. I'm going to add this 10 over. I'm going to show you that those are going to cancel out. You can almost think of it as like a big addition problem here, keeping in mind where your equal sign is the whole time, right? All right, so then we've got 4x. I'm going to bring down my equal sign, and I've got 16 over here. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And x is going to equal, I'm going to also divide by 2, divide by 2. You could divide by 4, that would probably be smarter. Let's divide by 4. My brain is really tired today. 16 over 4, that should have been really easy, is going to be x equals 4. Okay, if you had started by dividing by 2, you should have gotten 8 over 2, right? And then 8 over 2 is going to be 4. As far as checking it, I'm going to let you do your check. So you do your check, plug it in, and make sure you're doing that on your notes. And I'm going to put a note that I'm having you guys do that on your own. All right, number 4. All right, number 4, we have got 6a minus 11/3 equals negative 5a over 3 plus 26 over 3. Okay, so on this one, you can absolutely just put, find a common denominator with this one and put it over 3 and keep going. One option that I like to show you, this is called clear the denominators. And you're going to need to know how to do this skill. So if we're going to clear the denominators, what I want you to do is you're going to look across all your denominators. And right now, 6a is sitting over 1. And you're saying, what's the least common denominator or the least common multiple? Both of those are going to be the same answer between 1 and 3. And the answer would be 3. So what we're going to do, we're going to multiply every single one of these terms by 3. And I'm going to multiply that by 3. So if you want to, you can think about it as multiplying it like 3 over 1, 3 over 1. So then what that means is my first term now becomes 18a. And then here we get negative 11. And then here, those cross off 2, and you're going to get negative 5a. And then on this last one, these 3's cancel out, and you're going to get 26 for that one. So now you're ready to just kind of keep solving the problem. I've had some students get stuck on that last step and say, oh my gosh, what just happened? And for example, if you would rather do it like this step right here, if you would rather think about just multiplying straight across, you could do negative 15a over 3, and negative 15a over 3 is going to reduce to negative 5a, right? So you can do it that way as well, if you'd rather just multiply straight across and then reduce. I like to do my reducing on the front end. All right, so then here we're going to add the 5a over. So that goes away. I'm going to add the 11 over. And so here we're going to get 23a equals 37. Now you're ready to divide both sides by 23. And a equals 37 over 23. All right, so this is one in particular that if I got that as my answer, I would be wondering, did I do something wrong? Because that doesn't come out as nice as we normally get. Let me check. And so you should check it. You should find out if we made a mistake. So let's find out. Did we mess that up? So you're gonna have 6 times 37 over 23 minus 11 thirds equals negative 5 times 37 over 23 all over 3 plus 26 over 3. So in my calculator, I'm just gonna plug in all of this and I'm gonna plug it in. So I'm gonna do 6 times 37 fraction button 23 equals, and then that gave me, when I did that, I got 9 and 15 23rds minus 11 thirds. And I'm gonna go ahead, while that's still in my calculator, I'm gonna write punch in minus 11 fraction button, where are you, fraction button, 3. And that is gonna give me 5 and 68 over 69. That's not looking promising, but let's find out. All right, so the next one, it's negative 5. So I'm gonna put 5 and then make it negative, and I'm gonna do times 37 fraction button 23 equals, that gave me negative 8 and 1 over 23 over 3 plus 26 over 3. Now I'm gonna take what's in my calculator right now, this, and I'm gonna divide it by 3, hit equals. That gave me negative 2 and 47 over 69. And I'm gonna add 26 fraction button 3, which gives me 5 and 68 69ths. Okay, so that was super messy, but it checked out that we did it correctly and that this is our answer. And so that is why checking your work is just a great idea, because then it assures you that, hey, this messy answer was actually correct. I know you all are super excited about that. As excited as me. All right, number 5. Number 5, this one's much easier. 2 times 6 plus x minus 7 equals negative 4x plus 5 plus 8x. Do that one on your own. When you're done with it, you should get x equals 0. So check your work. I'm going to note that I signed that one. And then don't forget to do your check on your own too for that. Then we're going to do some more examples. I know you didn't think there could possibly be more solving multi-step equation examples, but there are. There's quite a few more actually. Be pumped about that. All right, number 6. We're going to have 2/3 minus 4y over 9 equals 15 plus y. And I would like you to clear the denominator. So what do we need to do to multiply every single term in order for both of those denominators to cancel out? So you're saying, like, what's the least common multiple? What's the least common denominator? And the answer is, drum roll, 9. multiply this by 9, multiply this by 9, multiply that by 9, multiply this by 9. So as we are going through this, I again prefer to reduce on the front end. If you would rather go, oh, 9 times 2, that's 18. 18 divided by 3, that's 6. You can totally do that. I like to go like this, and then that, and then 2 times 3 is 6. My 9's here cancel out, and I get minus 4y. 15 times 9 is, I put it in, or you can do that math off to the side in your paper or in your head, and we're going to end up getting 135 plus 9y. And now we're ready to move the terms to one side, move the constant terms to one side, the variables to the other. So I'm just going to move the 9y over. I'm going to move the 6 over. So then we're going to have a negative 13y and a 129 here. And we're ready to divide both sides by negative 13. And y is going to equal negative 129 over 13. So that's your answer. And I'm looking at it, and we have the answer correct. So you don't have to do your check for this one. So no check. This is your assurance that when I ask you, like, hey, where's your check? There's the answer. You don't have to do it. And I'm going to write a note on it so I don't expect it on your notes. Okay. Number 7. So number 7, this time we've got x plus 7 over 6 plus 2x minus 8 over 2. And that is going to equal negative 4. So I want you to think about what is going to be the least common multiple, the lowest common denominator that we're going to multiply every single term by. And be careful here. It's not like this is a term and this is a term. How we're going to view this is that this entire fraction is this entire fraction is a term, and this is a term. So it's a rational expression, okay? So what would I multiply it by? I'm hoping you say 6. So I would multiply this one by 6 over 1, this one by 6 over 1, this one by 6. So the 6 is going to cancel out here. So then that means what I've got left is x plus 7. Be super careful on the next one. This is going to cancel out, the 2 will. This is going to become a 3, right? So 6 over 2, that becomes 3. Well, what do we do with that? So right now what we actually have is this scenario going on. And I'm going to get rid of my 6 over 2. And we've got negative 24. Well, you need to distribute that in now. So then we're going to have x plus 7 plus 6x minus 24 equals negative 24. So I'm going to add the 24 over, I'm going to subtract the 7. So I'm getting rid of those. Now we have 7x on this side. The negative 24 and positive 24 are just going to cancel out. So we've got 7x equals negative 7. Let's divide both sides by 7. Then x equals negative 1. I'm going to check my answer key, and we are correct. That x equals negative 1. So we're not going to do a check for this one either. No check. All right. I want to talk about one because Ed Ready will ask you about this. And I just want to give you a heads up on this one. So what is this, number 8? Number 8. So if you get one that looks like this, so 0.06x plus 0.09 times 15 minus x equals 0.07 times 15. Sorry, I didn't space that very well. Anyway, if you get one like this, Ed Ready will sometimes ask you, what do we need to multiply every single term by to clear the decimals? So you would look, what's the largest place that we go to past, to the right of the decimal? Is it tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And right now, every single decimal list goes to the hundredths, hundredths, hundredths. So what you would need to do is multiply every single one of these terms by 100, like this. And that would clear your decimal, because that's going to move this over 2 places. So you'd have 6x plus 9 times 15 minus x equals 7 times 15. And then they would have you, they don't even have you solve the problem. They just ask you, what do you need to multiply this equation by in order to clear the decimal? And so your answer for that one would just be 100 on that. So we're gonna, you don't have to finish that one either. I just wanted to point that out to you. I'm not gonna do that one. Let me cross some of these off. Okay, I would like to do this one. So we're gonna do x over 2 plus 2/3 equals 3/4. So what I would like for you to do is pause the video, and I want you to figure out what do you need to multiply every single term by in order to clear the fractions. So I keep yawning. So if you're looking at those denominators, what's the least common multiple or the least common denominator? So one thing you can do is start with 4 and say 4, 8, 12. Which of those numbers will 2 and 3 also go into? And the answer to that is 12. So we're going to multiply this by 12, and this by 12, and this by 12. So then here, this becomes a 6 for me. So that's going to be a 6x. Here, this is going to be a 4. So I'm going to have a plus 8. And then here, this is going to be a 3. So that's going to be a 9. Then I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and I'm going to get 6x equals 1. And x equals 1/6 for our answer. And this one is correct too. So let me just put no check on that one. All right. Let's try this one. So we've got 4r over 5 minus 7 equals r over 10. So I want you to try that one. So ready, set, go. I want you to try that one, and your answer should be r equals 10 at the end. You do not need to check that one, but I do want you to solve it. I'm going to give you one more to do on your own too. Let me cross some of these off. Would you believe it? I've gotten rid of 8 problems so far. I'm going to do one more. Okay, I'm going to fit it in right here. Here we go. We've got 3/5. And we're going to multiply that by a quantity of c minus 2 equals 1/2. And it's going to be 3c plus 4 minus 14. So again, I would pause the video and think about what you might need to do in order to solve it. I have a feeling that some of you are going to say, I think we should distribute here. So if you want to do that, go for it. You can start by distributing, and then we're going to get 3/5 c minus 6 over 5, because again, think about how we're multiplying fractions. You're going to do 3 times 2, which is going to be 6, 5 times 1, which is going to be 5, equals 3 over 2c. So again, think about that as being like 3 over 1. Then you should be asking yourself, what's half of 4? Well, half of 4 is 2. Or you can think about it as it's 4 over 2, which is going to be 2. And then we have minus 14 at the end. So now what I want you to do is look at all of your denominators. These are going to be over 1. And think about what you can multiply every single term by in order to eliminate your denominator. And so that's what I want you to do. So I want you to finish this one. want you to think about what should you multiply every single term by in order to eliminate your denominator. And then finish this problem out. And then I also want you to check your answer at the end. So I'm not giving you the answer for this one because you should be able to check it at the end and verify that you've got this one correct. So that is the end of this video, and thanks for tuning in.